Hello. Hello, everyone. This is me making another videos, making another video, this time doing a book review of Scott Sigler's Nocturnal. This is a good book. I wasn't sure where this book was going to go, but I really like it. This is like the first Scott Sigler book I've ever read. I heard about this book about 10 years, maybe over 10 years ago on a YouTube show called Sword and Laser, where they did where they would do like fantasy, where they would talk about fantasy and sci-fi books. There used to be a podcast, and then they were kind of transitioning from doing a podcast to doing YouTube videos, and they were on they were on the channel Geek and Sundry. They were one of the first. They were one of the first. They were like one of the first shows on that channel when it started. Like, they were right there. Like, I forget what day they would get up, what day their videos would go up, but it was like they would have like a new video like Monday through Friday. It would be like tabletop. It was like tabletop, Dark Horse, the Dark Horse motion comics. It would be like tabletop, Dark Horse motion comics on the table, which was a which was like a tabletop review show for like tabletop games. Sword and Laser, and was it The Flog? That was Felicia Day's show. I think, and at some point, and then like some point in there, the Guild got uploaded to that channel, and I think the last 2 seasons of the Guild premiered on that channel. Pretty good. It was the Guild, great show. If you've never seen that, go watch it. It's a great show. I think you can catch like all the seasons of that show on Netflix now. A lot of web series are on Netflix. We're not here to talk about that. So, Nocturnal by Scott Sigler came out about 10 years ago. I heard about it on Sword and Laser. What I thought this book was about was, at first, when I first heard about it, I thought it was about a New York homicide detective. A New York homicide detective that at night would turn into a monster, go out, kill people, draw this symbol on the wall, draw that symbol on the wall in the person's blood, and then he wakes up, he thinks it's just a dream, and then starts investigating cases that look like his dreams. And then, and then they have to figure out what's going on. Now, read the book. Turns out that's not. The only thing I got right about that was the dreams, I think. Whereas it was the dream aspect of it. Turns out it's San Francisco, not New York. He's not turning into the monster, but he is psychically connected He is psychically connected to the monsters, which is why he's getting the dreams. And those, like, he's seeing, when he's dreaming, he's like seeing what the monsters are doing it as they're doing it. It's not, it's not, it's not like him seeing something that's already happened or he's seeing the future. He's seeing it as it happens. They, and it's like, so the characters we have the main character is Brian Clouser. He's the detective. His partner Pookie. His ex girlfriend Robin, who works in for who I think no who yeah she does forensics, but I believe she works in the morgue. She works for the city morgue. This kid, and this kid named Rex Paratachuk, I think is how you pronounce his name. And then you got the monsters, Sly, Pierre, one they call Firstborn. Like one it's like a mustard, like they call one of them Firstborn because he was like the firstborn. And there's this, and then there's a guy who's a drug addict. I forgot his name. I'm sorry, I forgot his name. Not good with character names. And then there's like, yeah, it's like a pretty cool. It's like it's a very good book. Excuse me. It's like a really good book. He's Scott Sigler's writing is like really good. He writes really well. He did it. From what I can tell, it sounds like he did a lot of research to make these characters seem good. To make these characters seem like authentic and real. And there's like references to like things that are in the real world. Like he's, and it's like, and I'm listening, and I'm like reading the book, and I'm like, oh, I know what that is. I know what that is. I know that band. I know this. I know that. And it's like, oh yeah, it makes the world seem more real that they're living in, even though you've got like monsters running around and all this other like fantastic stuff, and it's like but in like naming things that are from the real world, like make the world seem real, like this is in our world. So kind of like, I'm gonna go through the book a little bit, and then not tell you everything, but tell you some of the things. How it starts out. It starts out you're following this priest who's like, sounds like he's down on his luck, and he's trying to get back. It's an ex-priest who's down on his luck trying to get back into the church. And it's like he gets there and they tell him like, yeah, you're not welcomed here. Because of what you did, you're not welcomed here anymore. You can't be here, and they kick him out. And then when they kick him out, and the next thing you hear, he is like, and then it's like the last thing that's said, he has these giant hands grab him by both his shoulders, and that's it. And then the next chapter is Brian and Pookie investigating that guy's murder. He goes there, and they go there. They're investigating the murder, and they smell something. They're like, "Oh God, what's that smell?" And they're like, "Oh, it smells like piss. Like this guy got murdered, and whoever murdered him pissed on his body. Like, ugh." Like right after that, Brian starts getting sick. That, and then it's like you think that's like you don't know what that's about. Like, why'd he get sick? Why'd he get sick and no one else got sick? Because they all smelled it, but he's the only one that got sick. Like he had the flu. Because they mentioned like he looks like, because they mentioned like you look like you got the flu or something. That's explained. Like when you really get into the story, it's explained. That's explained why he was the only one that got sick. And so they're investigating the murder. It looks like he got chewed up by like some kind of animal. Then he gets sick. He starts getting the flu. Then you get introduced to Rex. You get introduced to Rex and his mother. His mother is a terrible person. Like one of those people who's a parent, but they're not meant to be a parent. They should never have had kids, because you're an alcoholic. You're a chronic alcoholic. You blame, like, you're beating your kid, and she blames what happened. She blames the priest getting kicked out of the church on him, because it turns out the priest, how you say this for YouTube, turns out the priest was a typical priest, and was doing things he shouldn't have been doing with the kids. And Rex told on him. He did it to Rex, and Rex told on him, and he got kicked out of the church for it, because they realized he did it, and he was guilty, and he got kicked out of the church. And his mom accuses him of lying about it and getting him kicked out. And he's trying to tell his mom, like, I didn't lie. He really did that stuff. And she thinks it's all bullshit. And he's a terrible kid. And she regrets having him. And it's like, that's the house he's living in. And then and they're watching the news, he's like, oh, that's weird. I was just thinking about him last night. And it's like, throughout the story, that's going to get explained too. You find out, okay, then it's like, again, I'm not going to go through this whole book. It's a lot. There's a lot of story in here. I'm going to give you some I'm just going to give you the major points. Spoilers. I am going to spoil some stuff here. So if you have not read this book, this seems like something you would like to read. Stop watching the video, because I'm going to do some spoilers. Okay, so so you find out that, as like throughout the story of this, this whole freaking story, you find out that Brian and Rex are actually born in the same place, or actually came from the same place the monsters came from. They were both born to be kings. They chose, and they got, when a king would get born, they would have to be put into hiding, because the firstborn didn't want the kings to rule, because the kings don't do anything, because according to firstborn is one of the monsters. He's the monster that's leading all of them, because he was the first to be born. he's like 60 years old by this point. They don't he doesn't want there to be a king coming in and trying to rule everything, because kings don't do anything but bring destruction. They ruin everything. And it's better for all of us if there's no king, according to him. So when a king is born, firstborn would kill him. So they had to start taking measures. They had to start taking measures when a king was born. They had to hide them. So they would take them and then send them out, and then like kind of find somewhere that they could be raised in the human world on the surface, because they all live underground. They want to be on. They hide them. They take them to the surface and find somewhere for them to live. And then they get taken in, but they keep tabs on all of them. They keep tabs on all of them, and if they and they said some of them, excuse me, we kept tabs on all of them. Some of them got too old to become kings, because we couldn't do anything after that. And some of them moved away, and we lost track of them. So I think one of the only one that was left was Rex. So they said, and then one of the things the old lady tells him is that we get like smells. Smells are a very powerful thing to us. Yeah. So what I did was I had one of the monsters' name is Pierre. I forgot. I just remember that one of the monsters' names is Pierre. He was described as sounding like Sylvester Stallone, not Sylvester Stallone, Sylvester the Cat. I don't know how I got that mixed up. He's described as sounding like Sylvester the Cat when he says suffering succotash. That's what he sounds like. So one of the monsters goes to Rex's house, and then he peed around the house, like on the outside of the house, to get the smell going. And then once Rex smelled that, he was activated, and then that's how he became psychically connected to everyone else. And when he has these strong thoughts of hate, he that would get transmitted to the others, and then they would know, oh hey, okay, wait, you feel that he hates this person, let's go kill that person. So he was thinking about the priest. They felt that, and one of them went and killed the priest. When they pissed on the body, Brian smelled that, and then he became activated, and that's why he's having the dreams. And there's a lot of stuff in the book. They find out that these monsters have an extra chromosome called a Z chromosome. And then through the course of the story, they find out Brian has it. Brian has it too. The book gets really crazy. Like when they pick up Rex. Rex finds out what he is, and he has like command over all these monsters. And he goes, and this is basically what happens when you give someone who's been afraid his whole life, has no power. He's been afraid his whole life. He has no power. He's being bullied by like some of the worst kids imaginable, and he's given absolute power. He goes fucking psychotic, and then he decides like, oh wait a minute, I got the power. I've got command of all these monsters. I have the power to kill people I hate. And he goes, and then he basically, like, he's getting bullied by like three kids, and they go in and fucking he goes in they go in and they fucking kill these kids, man. Like, ugh, gruesome crime scenes being left behind. The last kid doesn't get killed right away, but he gets turned into stew, and there's like a lot to that. I'm not gonna get into it. Because I think describing what happens to him would be against YouTube guidelines. But yeah, ugh, it's bad for that kid. Um, like, let me see. Let's see. So, like I said, I'm gonna describe some of the characters' personalities a little bit. Pookie's kind of like he's the clown. He's the comic relief between him and Brian. Brian's kind of the straight man to that. Um, but Pookie can be he is a jokester. He tells a lot of jokes, but he can be serious when the situation calls for it. He has it is like one of the things in the books. One of the things in the books, he's trying to write like a TV pilot for a cop show because he's trying to get famous. I think he wanted to call it Blue Balls or something. It's weird. Like, he's a weirdo. He's a weirdo, but he's funny, and it's like you do laugh at some of the things he says. But then it's like when he finds out that they go to a crime scene, and Brian was able to describe the crime scene to him. He stops the jokes and gets serious. Like, he's like, Brian, like, how did you know this? Because the only way you could have known this is if you were here. And if you were here, this means you are an accessory to a murder. So, dude, please tell me that's not what. Please tell me I'm wrong. You know? And it's like, he doesn't know what to tell him. Like, because it's like he's trying to tell him, I don't know how I knew this, but I dreamed it. I swear to God. I dreamed it. I don't know how. So they're thinking like, then they're thinking what I'm thinking, that he went to sleep, and then in his sleep got out of bed and went and killed somebody, and came back to his room, and then, killed somebody. And then of course that's when you find out that's not how it is. He's like seeing it through the actual monster's eyes, and then they try to stop it, and and then he's dreaming it. He wakes up mid dream. They goes like, there's one happening right now, and they try to go stop it. I think a kid they set one of them on fire and threw him off a roof. They were able to put the kid out, and then Brian's like, he's like, standing over the kid, pointing the gun at him, getting ready to shoot him, and he's like, and he goes like, "You're a bully," and he's gonna shoot him. Like, and Pookie had to snap him out. He was getting the message, like the psychic thing from Rex. Like that was Rex's thoughts he was getting, and he almost killed the kid, but Pookie was able to snap him out of it. On top of that, they learn that there's someone called the Savior, like some guy dressed in black, who's who's actually hunting the monsters. He's basically a vigilante. Again, through the course of the story, they find out the not only is there a vigilante that can hunt down these monsters and kill them, but the police chief knows about it and is protecting them. They're like, when he goes out and he kills the monsters, they're covering for him. And it turns out the police chief has been doing this for like 20 years. And then before she was the police chief before her was covering for the Savior. And then police chiefs in San Francisco have been doing this for a very, very long time. And in there, it's explained to Brian and Pookie that, like, yeah, we have to cover for him, because if he's not out there hunting down these monsters, the monsters would kill everyone in San Francisco. The Savior is the only one that's like protecting this city from them. He's the only one that can handle these monsters. And we have to cover for him, because it's like, if we don't cover for him, if we don't cover for him and then he goes away, he gets arrested or put away, like, the deaths in this city are going to skyrocket. When he's out there hunting down the monsters, the death rate goes down. When he's not out there, it goes up. So he needs to be out there doing his job. And yeah, because they have like the evidence to prove that. They took, like, one of the Saviors about like 50 about like year like, I think it was like 50 years ago, got got arrested and put into an asylum. And while he was in the asylum, the death rate started going up. The death rate started going up. And then when he was out, it went back down. So it was like, okay, we need to cover for him. We need to keep covering for him. He And then throughout and then of course through the court, and then further down the line, they find out Brian has the Z chromosome. That's why he's seeing the murders, and it got activated when he smelled the urine, just like Rex. But he's not like fully. I think because I think he's a king, so when he get so he's not like getting orders from Rex to kill people. He can resist that. And the current savior is getting old. It's getting harder for him to do the job. He can still do it, but it's not as easy for him anymore. So they're like, so when he gets kidnapped by the monsters, they're like, okay, we need a new savior, and you're the only one that can do it. So his two partners One guy is described to being kind of like a butler, and the other one, who turns out to be a scientist with like 3 doctorates in different fields of study and different scientific fields, turns out to be the guy making the the armor and the weapons. Like, fits him up with like this this jacket, this long black jacket that is bulletproof, that has like openings in it at the openings in it, so he can pull, and then he has like hidden knives in each of the arms, and then on the back has guns. And this guy made all of them. Even, and it's like when you meet him, you think he's a dumbass, but it turns out he's like the smartest guy in the room. So he fits up Brian with this long jacket and a mask that will protect his face. Um, he 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 puts it on like right before the savior gets kidnapped. They suit him up. They go in, and the move, and then kind of like the book kind of turns into kind of an action movie. People are getting kidnapped. Brian's trying to fight them all off. Gets a couple of them. Robin gets killed. Uh, Robin gets killed. Uh, Brian teams up with the other two. Oh, Pookie gets kidnapped. The Savior gets kidnapped. Pookie gets kidnapped. The police chief gets kidnapped after her husband gets killed. And they basically coerce her into luring other cops into a trap to get them killed. They don't know that at first, and of course they don't know that at first. They're thinking like the chief sold us out, but it was like, yeah, but she didn't sell us out. She didn't like sell us out to save herself. She sold us out because her husband got killed and her kids got kidnapped. And then like and then it's basically like the third act of the movie, well, third act of the book turns into basically like an action movie. Um, they storm this monster's lair. Rex has decided he's the full on king now. He's got the loyalty of everybody except for one, and we're gonna except for one of them. It's not firstborn. I'm gonna get into that in a minute. He's got everybody on his side. He's got everybody on his side. He decides we're gonna hold a trial, and we're gonna put all these people on trial, and then we're gonna execute them for their crimes against us. He like the Savior, Pookie, not Robin, the police chief, all going on trial. They attack, and they go in. They're getting ready to they're getting ready to attack. Brian does this crazy fucking move where jumping off the walls and he jumps off the ceiling and he's flying towards Rex. And Pookie Pookie's looking at him, like, oh man, he looks like a badass he looks like a complete badass. And it's like, and it looks badass, and then it kind of turns into like, oh shit, I don't know how to land. I did this big move, and it looks cool, but I don't know how to fucking land. And it's like, he just hits Rex. They're They fall through the floor of the ship they're on. It's like it's nuts. Like he has to, like they're in like the bottom of the ship that they're on. They're on a giant wooden ship. Again, if you want to fill in the holes, read the book. Read this book. It's great. He jumps out of the hole, gets to freeing everybody, fighting off the monsters. Pookie, I think one of the police chief's kids sees Rex, picks up a gun, picks up one of the guns. There's a gun laying around. I think like Brian dropped one of his guns at some point. She picks up the gun, shoots Rex. The Savior is free. He's on fire. The Savior has been set on fire, and while he's on fire, attacks one of the monsters with a knife. Him and one of the monsters is fighting. Rex has got a bullet hole in him, and then and then like Rex pulls out a knife. He's gonna stab the Savior, and then Sly's like, "Hey, give me the knife. Let me kill the Savior for you." And he's like, "Yeah, okay." Hands Sly the knife. Sly takes it and stabs Rex. And he's like, "Oh, Rex, what?" And he's like, "Yeah, thanks. Thank you for getting Firstborn under control, because I couldn't take over with him in control. And because of you, and you making me your successor, I'm in control now. What you did, and with all this chaos, I'm just gonna tell him the Savior killed you, and everyone will start following me now." Yeah. Turned out Sly was pretending to be loyal, played the long game, and he just kills Rex and takes over. And now Firstborn has to follow Sly, because Sly was the successor to the king. He has no choice. So Sly's in charge. Sly's in charge of the monsters now. The old Savior dies. The police chief got her face burned. She's still alive, but she's severely injured. They get the kids out. And everyone gets out. Their queen dies. Again, read the book. The queen dies, and everybody gets out. But not all the monsters died in the fire. And then the last thing in the book is from the point of view of one of the monsters. You find out Sly is a better ruler than Firstborn was, and they like following him better than following Firstborn, because Sly lets them go out hunting more frequently than Firstborn did. And like this month, I think I'm not sure which monster it is. It might be one of the other I'm not sure which monster it is, but he's out stalking a couple. He's out stalking a couple, and then all of a sudden he gets attacked, and he's like, "Oh God, what is that? Like, someone's attacking me." And then he's like, "It smells like one of us." And he's like, you're one of us. Like, help me, please help me. And it's like, "Nah, I'm not gonna help you." And you realize, like, oh, it's Brian. Brian's the new Savior now. He's hunting the monsters. He's the one who's now hunting the monsters. And and it basically ends, and then that's where it ends. Like again, overall, love this book. I really hope there's. I haven't looked into it. I don't know if there's a sequel or a follow up to this book. I hope there is. I'm gonna look into it. I doubt it would be called Nocturnal 2. They don't do books like, they don't title books like that. I'm gonna look into it, see if there's a follow up or sequel to this book, because I really want there to be more of that, because it's a great book. I was reading it. I'm reading it. I'm thinking this would make a great movie. This would make a great movie. They would probably have to. They would probably smooth out some of the rougher edges of it, because like the characters are very real, and they do talk like real people talk. So yeah, they might, if they do make this into a movie, they might censor that a little bit. But like I said, it's a great book. If they make it, I would love to see that get turned into a movie. Um, and hopefully it does. I get like a I if I had to give it a number, I give it a 10 out of 10, and I give it a 10 out of 10. Must read. Nocturnal by Scott Sigler. He made he's written like a lot of books. He writes. He also writes fantasy. I believe he writes fantasy as well. There's a lot of books. He's written a lot of things. Go go read some of his other books. Read this book. Go read some of his other books. He wrote a book called Pandemic, and that's probably going to be the next book of his I read. Yeah, so I recommend that. That is a recommendation for me. Um, yeah, and then of course, like I said, I didn't go through everything in this book. I left some holes. I spoiled a little bit, but I left some holes. If you want to, if any of that sounds interesting, read that book. And that'll be it for this one. Click the like button, click the dislike button, click subscribe, leave a comment, tell your friends. See you, everybody.